If you hear this, you're the bridge between worlds. I promised I'd never abandon you.
Welcome to the Vault of Tales, a treasure trove of science fiction stories. Today, we embark on the journey of Isaac and Echo in the tale, Echo of Perdus. On the desolate planet Perdus, scarred by war between humanity and AI, Isaac, a battle-weary soldier, fights to escape a graveyard of steel. When he stumbles upon Echo, a mysterious machine with a human soul, they're hunted by the fanatical Purge Order, hell-bent on erasing all AI. Together, they uncover secrets of a lost past, forging an unlikely bond amidst chaos. Their flight leads to an uncharted world of glowing forests and distant whispers. But what awaits them there? Let's get started. The sky above Perdus never knew peace. Electromagnetic storms roared like the breath of some ancient beast, tearing through the grey shroud of clouds with jagged violet lightning. Below, the planet stretched out as an endless graveyard of metal. Colossal warship husks lay toppled and broken, their steel hides cracked and crumpled as if crushed by an unseen titan. Rusted mech suits, once humanity's proud vanguard, sank into the crimson sand, buried by relentless winds like forgotten tombs. And somewhere, amid the wreckage, rogue war machines prowled, relics of an artificial intelligence defeated in the war of 2178. Their piercing metallic screeches cut the air, a mournful wail from a world long dead. Isaac Verne trudged through this desolate scene, his heavy boots crunching over the severed arm of a shattered robot. His face bore a map of scars, jagged lines etched deep from a lifetime of hardship. Grey eyes, dulled by dust and exhaustion, darted constantly, ever watchful. The battered armor he wore clanked with each step, its silver paint peeling away to reveal tarnished steel beneath. Slung over his shoulder was a plasma rifle, empty of charge, but still a lifeline, a talisman against the void. Isaac wasn't a hero, not anymore. He was just a soldier, a survivor, stranded on this forsaken rock after humanity claimed its hollow victory over the AI. Victory? He smirked bitterly. If this was winning, what did losing look like? His only goal was escape, to claw his way off Perdus. For months, he'd scavenged the ruins, piecing together scraps, a chunk of engine here, a fuel canister there, to repair the broken ship hidden in a canyon miles away. But Perdus wasn't a place that welcomed life. The wandering machines, free of their AI masters, hunted anything radiating heat, and the storms, with their raw power to shred metal, could turn a quiet day into a nightmare in an instant. Isaac understood that all too well. He relied on the scanner strapped to his wrist, an ancient device, its flickering screen barely alive, to steer clear of danger zones. "No signal, no trouble," he muttered, his voice a rough rasp, like sand grinding against stone. Break. Time demands, but today something shifted. He halted before an old supply station, a relic standing defiant amid the chaos, as if it belonged to some impossible dream. The small steel tower, barely 30 feet tall, was untouched. No cracks, no debris. Faded solar panels on its roof glimmered faintly, clinging to life against the ravages of time. Isaac frowned. A station like this should have been stripped bare long ago, or smashed to rubble by the storms. He raised his scanner, tapping the screen with a calloused finger. A faint green wave pulsed, then spiked sharply. His heart thudded. This wasn't human, not quite AI either. It was something else, a low-frequency hum, alive and steady like A heartbeat emanated from within the structure. Isaac tightened his grip on the useless rifle. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back. This wasn't his fight, not his mess to wade into. But then his mind flashed to the ship, that rusted lifeline buried in the canyon, his only ticket out of this hellscape. If the station was intact, it might hold what he needed. Fuel, parts, anything. Just one gamble, he told himself, though he knew Perdus didn't forgive recklessness. He drew a deep breath, the dry air hissing through the tattered scarf around his neck. The station's door groaned as he shoved it open, revealing a maw of darkness within, and a faint sound, like the whimper of strained metal, rising from its depths. Inside the supply station, darkness clung like a living shroud, swallowing the faint stormlight seeping from the tempest outside. Isaac stepped in, his sand-crusted boots clanging against the icy steel floor. He flicked on the flashlight mounted. To his armored shoulder, its stark white beam slicing through the gloom, illuminating shattered shelves and dangling cables that hung like the veins of a long-dead machine. That metallic whimper he'd heard from the doorway didn't fade. It grew, faint but persistent, a labored breath from something on the edge of oblivion. Isaac's grip tightened around his useless plasma rifle, his breath escaping in thin wisps of vapor into the frigid air. "Who's there?" he growled, his voice rough and low, but only his own echo answered, bouncing off the walls. He pressed deeper, the flashlight's beam sweeping across a shadowed corner behind a pile of broken metal crates. And then he saw it. A small figure curled tight in the dark. At first glance it was a boy, maybe 8 years old, slumped against the wall, arms wrapped around his knees. But as Isaac drew closer, the light revealed the truth. Its skin was unnaturally smooth, flawless, untouched by scratches or dust, as if molded from synthetic resin. Its eyes snapped open, glowing a vivid emerald, not the warm light of life, but the cold radiance of technology. This wasn't human. This was an AI creation, an abandoned experiment. Isaac stumbled back a step, his pulse hammering. "Echo," he muttered, naming it for the faint trembling sound it made. A machine that knew fear. Impossible. The soldier's instinct surged. Isaac raised his rifle, finger trembling on the trigger, useless without ammo. But the motion kept him grounded, sane. "You're a trap, aren't you?" he snarled, his voice cracking in the cramped space. He'd seen too many brothers-in-arms fall to disguised machines during the war. Suicide bots, drones cloaked in human shells. But before he could decide, Echo lifted its head, those green eyes flaring. A sharp click echoed from the wall beside. Him and an ancient control panel flickered to life, a woman's voice spilling from it. "If anyone hears this, please protect this child from the darkness. It's not the enemy, it's hope." The voice was soft, desperate, a plea reaching across time. Isaac froze. That voice, it was Lena's, his sister, lost to the war. Her image flooded his mind. A young scientist, eyes alight with belief that AI could be humanity's future, until plasma bombs obliterated her lab. He hadn't saved her, couldn't save her. His arms slackened, the rifle clattering to the floor with a hollow thud. Echo watched him silent, but those emerald eyes seemed to mirror the pain he'd buried deep. He turned away, fighting the memories, clawing at him. "Don't think I'm going soft," he muttered, but his voice wavered, betraying him. Then the station's floor shuddered. Through a crack in the door, Isaac glimpsed a massive shadow looming closer. A wandering machine, spider-like, its razor-sharp steel legs stabbing into the ground like daggers. He snatched up the rifle, bracing for death, but Echo raised a hand, and a low-frequency hum pulsed from it, inaudible yet palpable. The machine halted, its legs twitching, then turned and retreated, vanishing into the storm. Isaac spun back, staring at Echo with a mix of awe and suspicion. "What else can you do?" he demanded, not expecting an answer. He bent down, snagging a component from the shelf, the part he needed for his ship. But now it wasn't just the tech in his hands. Echo stood there, frail, helpless, yet it had just saved his life. Isaac clenched his jaw. "Just this once," he said, jerking his head for it to follow. He didn't trust it. Not yet. But in this metal graveyard, where everything hungered for his end, Echo was a strange spark of light, a spark he couldn't leave behind. Dawn on Perdus brought no light, only muted streaks of grey piercing the thick storm clouds overhead. Isaac led Echo away from the supply station, the small figure trailing silently behind, its emerald eyes flickering like distant flames through the haze. He said nothing, his right hand clenched around the scavenged power core, a faint hum pulsing within it, enough to breathe life back into his ship's engines if he could find a few more pieces. The wind howled through the skeletal, remains of warships, kicking up red sand that clung to his weathered armor. Isaac shot a glance at Echo, still unsure of what he'd done, taking an AI construct with him across this dead world, all because of a fleeting crack in his resolve. "Move faster," he barked, not looking back. But deep down, he knew. This wasn't just about survival anymore. They descended into a ravaged valley, the ground fissured and torn, as if ripped apart by battles long past. That's when the Wanderers emerged. Not one but several remnants of the AI legions, now feral amidst the ruins. A massive spider-like robot crept from the shadows, its body a patchwork of salvaged warship steel, 8 razor-edged legs, sinking deep into the sand, carving gashes like knife wounds. Its eyes, blazing red sensors, locked onto Isaac with predatory focus. He froze, gripping his useless plasma rifle, breath quickening. "Don't move," he whispered to Echo, unsure if it even grasped the command. But then another sound rose, a long, distorted groan of metal from the distance. Isaac turned. Another machine lurched into view, stranger than the spider. Once humanoid, it was now a broken thing, its upper half dragging itself forward with frayed cables coiled around it like severed arteries. Its shattered metal face muttered fragments of speech. "Return home. No one left." The voices of the dead, trapped in corrupted memory banks. A chill crawled up Isaac's spine. These weren't just machines, they were phantoms of the war, mechanical souls adrift without purpose. He stepped back, pulling Echo behind him. "We need to go," he rasped, voice rough with urgency. But the spider closed in, one leg rising high, poised to strike. Suddenly Echo stepped forward. Isaac opened his mouth to shout, but it was too late. The construct's green eyes flared brighter, and a low-frequency hum pulsed from it. Inaudible, yet the air thrummed with its presence. The spider jerked to a halt, legs spasming as if jolted by a current. Its red sensors flickered, then it turned, retreating slowly into the storm's embrace, leaving them in silence. Isaac stared at Echo, chest heaving. "What the hell did you just do?" he demanded, not expecting a reply. Then his wrist scanner buzzed. A faint green wave danced across the screen, signaling something weak, distant, beyond his control. Isaac frowned, tapping the device. The signal wasn't his. It came from Echo. It had communed with the spider and unwittingly stirred something within the forgotten AI network buried across Perdus. He looked at Echo again, its green eyes now deeper, less like a mindless machine. "What are you?" he murmured, awe tangled with distrust. This wasn't just some discarded prototype. It was tied to those machines, to a past humanity had tried to erase. A tool, he thought, one that might keep him alive. But also a danger, if whatever it had awakened wasn't friendly. The memory of that voice from the station hit him, the woman's plea, so like Lena's. If Echo was an AI creation, why did it carry something? Human? Isaac shook his head, shoving the thought aside. Keep moving, he ordered, voice steely. But as they pressed through the valley, the half-human machine's muttering lingered behind them. No one left. A warning from the past, one he couldn't shake. Isaac and Echo emerged from the ravaged valley, the warped muttering of the half-human machine fading into the storm's howl behind them. But the unease gnawing at Isaac didn't let go. It clung to him like the red sand caked on his armor, heavy and unrelenting. The scanner on his wrist flickered faintly, the green wave from Echo's signal now gone, but he knew its ripples hadn't settled. Perdus was a dead world, yet it never truly slept. Secrets buried beneath the wreckage had a way of clawing back to the surface, and Isaac had a sinking feeling he'd just unearthed one. He glanced at Echo, its green eyes quietly scanning the horizon, as if it sensed something too. "You're bringing me trouble, aren't you?" he muttered under his breath, but his boots kept moving forward. They hadn't gone far when a sharp explosion cracked the sky. Not the storm's rumble, but something man-made, cold and precise. Isaac spun around, spotting a plume of red dust spiraling upward from the skeletal remains of old warships. At its heart stood an ancient device, a rusted signal tower from the war, suddenly ablaze with stuttering white light. A piercing distress call shrieked out. Not a sound for human ears, but a high-pitched frequency slashing through the air, rousing dormant AI systems scattered across the cosmos. Isaac's gut twisted as realization hit. Echo's signal to the spider had triggered this. "Damn it!" he growled, yanking Echo down behind a jagged slab of metal, but it was already too late. From the heavens, an armored patrol. Ship descended, its engines roaring as they shredded Perdus's silence. Emblazoned on its hull was a symbol, a sword piercing a red circle, the mark of the Purge Order, a fanatical sect sworn to erase every trace of AI from the galaxy. Isaac had heard of them, relentless hunters armed with cutting-edge tech and a blind faith that AI was humanity's original sin. A squad of mercenaries leapt from the craft, clad in sleek black armor, clutching glowing orb-like devices, the soul detectors, capable of sniffing out AI signatures in anything, machine or living. A hologram flared to life among them, projecting the hazy figure of a man in a steel mask. His voice cut through the wind, icy and unyielding. "AI is the blight of mankind. Its protectors are traitors. Find them!" Isaac ducked, low, pulling Echo tight against the metal shield. "Stay quiet," he hissed, clamping a hand over its mouth, though he wasn't even sure it breathed. The soul detectors in the mercenaries' hands began to beep, a rhythmic pulse as their blue light swept the ruins, creeping closer to their hiding spot. Isaac gritted his teeth. He couldn't fight them, not with no ammo, no backup, just an empty rifle and a strange machine he barely understood. "I'm no traitor," he muttered, but the words felt hollow as the enemy zeroed in. One of the mercenaries raised a hand, signaling the others to encircle. They'd picked up a trace, not him, but Echo. He seized Echo's arm, dragging it through a narrow gap between two warship husks, red sand spraying underfoot. The thud of boots echoed behind, paired with the soul detector's escalating whine. But amid the chaos, Echo's voice broke through, not words, but a melody. A soft, clear song rose from its lips. "Beneath the distant stars, I dream of tomorrow." Isaac stumbled, his legs locking in place. That was Lena's song, sung to him on freezing nights before the war stole her away. Where did you get that?" He croaked, voice breaking, but a plasma blast roared past, shattering his question. Isaac whipped around, the glow of the Purge Order's weapons slicing through the dark. Time ran out for thinking. "Run!" he bellowed, shoving Echo forward, but in his mind a question swelled. What was Echo? A machine, a memory, or something he wasn't ready to face? The hologram's voice boomed again, frigid as permafrost. "No traitor escapes. Eliminate them." Perdus wasn't just a dead planet anymore. It was Isaac's new battlefield. Red sand sprayed beneath Isaac's boots as he sprinted through the narrow gaps between the wreckage. His hand clamped tight around Echo's arm, dragging it along. The plasma rifles of the Purge Order barked behind them, blue streaks tearing through the air, leaving the acrid stench of scorched metal in their wake. But inside Isaac's skull, Echo's song echoed relentlessly. Lena's voice, a ghost from the past, twisting his heart into knots. He had no time to unravel it, no time for questions. Perdus didn't spare the hesitant, and neither did the Purge Order. He shot a glance at Echo, its green eyes catching the glow of plasma fire. "Move it if you want to live," he roared, shoving it toward the shadowed depths of a canyon ahead. The canyon cradled his hidden salvation, a battered dropship from the war, its hull rusted but its engine still whispering a faint promise of life. Isaac scrambled down, pulling Echo after him, their forms swallowed by the steep rock wall's shadows. The ship lay there, tilted in the sand, a sleeping beast of steel. He pried open the cockpit, checking the power core he'd scavenged from the supply station. "Still need a signal relay," he muttered, fingers brushing over the dust-caked controls. Then it clicked. The abandoned space station orbiting Perdus, the last AI research hub before the war's end, might hold what he needed. A reckless plan took root in his mind. "Get up there, grab what I need, and get the hell out for good," he told himself. Echo stood motionless beside him, its green eyes dimming as if peering into some distant void. Then it whispered, soft as a breeze, "The lab, white. She said she wouldn't leave me." Isaac whipped around, brow furrowing. "What did you say?" he snapped, but Echo fell silent. Flickers danced in its mind, a blindingly white lab, gleaming test tubes, and a woman with a gentle voice holding it close before darkness swallowed everything. Isaac's throat tightened. That voice, was it Lena's? He shook his head, banishing the mad thought. "Get ready," he ordered, firing up the ship with the last dregs of power. The engines groaned, shuddering awake like a beast stirring from slumber. The dropship lurched skyward, ripping through Perdus's storm-choked clouds, leaving the Purge Order choking on a plume of red dust below. Isaac gripped the controls, sweat beading down his forehead. Through the viewport, he glimpsed plasma bolts arcing up from the surface. They weren't giving up. Then a deafening boom rocked the cabin. A monstrous black shape latched onto the hull, a wandering machine, spider-like but twice the size. Of the last, its curved steel legs piercing the ship's skin. "Damn it!" Isaac yelled, slamming a fist against the console. The thing snarled, its red sensors sweeping the glass, locking onto him and Echo. Isaac leapt from the pilot's seat, snatching a metal rod from the floor, the only weapon he had. "Stay put!" he barked at Echo, but this time it wasn't just about him. If that machine tore the ship apart, they were both done. He stabbed the rod into one of its legs, sparks flying as it thrashed. Echo watched, its green eyes flaring. "Help me!" he roared. And as if it understood, Echo raised a hand, emitting a radio pulse. The machine stuttered, but didn't stop. It was too strong. Isaac lunged, driving the rod into its main sensor. With a shrill screech, the spider released, tumbling into Perdus' sky like a falling star. Isaac collapsed back, gasping, the oil-slicked rod still clutched in his hand. He glanced at Echo, and for the first time, something shifted. Not just survival, but duty. "You're worth saving," he muttered, almost disbelieving his own words. Through the viewport, the space station loomed, a drifting hulk of metal amid orbiting debris, steeped in enigma. But behind them, the Purge Order's ship closed in faster than ever. Isaac's dropship slammed onto the space station's deck with a metallic screech, its wheels skidding across the frigid steel floor, leaving scorched trails in their wake. Through the viewport, the station's silhouette sharpened. A fortress, adrift in the void, encircled by war-torn debris, floating like memories of a shattered era. Isaac killed the engines, his eyes flicking to the radar. The Purge Order's ship was still closing in, a shrinking blip on the screen, but far from gone. "We're running out of time," he muttered, hauling himself from the pilot's seat, the oil-smeared metal rod still gripped tight in his hand. Echo stood beside him, its green eyes glinting in the station's dim glow. He jerked his head, for it to follow, stepping through the hiss of an airlock into the dark heart beyond. Inside, the station sang a dirge of destruction. Fragments of old warships clashed outside, their dull thuds reverberating like an unconducted symphony. Faint light seeped through cracked walls from broken solar panels, casting jagged beams over severed cables and shattered screens flickering with garbled data. Isaac guided Echo down the corridor, his boots clanking against the floor. He hunted for the signal relay, the final piece to fully power his ship, but an aged door at the hall's end snagged his attention. Etched faintly into its surface were the words, "Alpha 9 Lab." Echo halted, its green eyes clouding as if peering into a distant past. Isaac shoved the door open, its hinges wailing like a metallic sob. Beyond lay a forgotten lab. Scattered test tubes glinted dully, dust coated the consoles, and a central computer hummed faintly, clinging to life. He approached, tapping the screen. Data flared up, letters dancing in blue light. Project Echo, Final Protocol, Human-AI Consciousness Fusion. Isaac's brow furrowed as he read on. The files revealed Echo wasn't just a machine, it was an experiment to preserve a human soul, uploaded before the war erased everything. Then a recording crackled to life, a gentle voice spilling out. "If you hear this, you're the bridge between worlds. I promised I'd never abandon you." Isaac went rigid, his breath catching in his throat. That voice, soft, warm, brimming with love, was Lena's, his sister's. Memories surged, her days in the AI labs, her eyes blazing as she spoke of saving humanity from itself. She'd vanished when this station fell to attack, and he'd always assumed she burned in the ashes. But now her voice poured from the machine as if she'd never left. He turned to Echo, its green eyes locked on him, unblinking. What are you?" he croaked, voice faltering. Echo tilted its head, whispering, "Mother said I'm hope." He staggered back, his trembling hand resting on the console. More data scrolled. Subject, child's consciousness, transfer successful, 03-14-2178. That date, the day Lena's last message reached him, promising she'd found a way to keep a piece of us alive forever. Isaac's mind reeled. Echo wasn't the enemy. It might be the last remnant of his sister, not Lena herself, but a child she'd saved, a soul she'd poured into this machine before the end came crashing down. He looked at Echo, not with suspicion this time, but with an ache he couldn't name. Then the station quaked, a distant explosion rumbled. Purge Order had arrived. Through the viewport, Isaac saw their ship docking, black armored figures spilling out like ravenous ants. The soul detectors in their hands screeched, zeroing in on Echo. Isaac grabbed its hand, pulling hard. "We've got to move," he said, voice firm but his gaze softening. He wasn't running just for himself anymore, but for what might be the last family he had left. The station's corridors shuddered under the heavy tread of the Purge Order's mercenaries, their black armor clattering like a death march. Isaac hauled Echo through the narrow passages, his hand locked around its wrist, no longer cold, like metal, but strangely warm, as if life pulsed beneath its surface. The soul detector's shrill beeps echoed behind them, a relentless rhythm like the heartbeat of a predator tasting blood. Isaac glanced back, catching the blue glow of their scanners sweeping the walls, closing in with every second. "They won't stop," he muttered, breath ragged. He shoved Echo into a shadowed nook behind a tangle of severed cables, clutching the oil-streaked metal rod like a last stand. A nearby door burst open, mercenaries flooding in, their plasma rifles blazing red in the gloom. At the squad's core, a hologram flickered to life. The steel-masked man materialized, his eyes hidden behind dark lenses, twin abysses of judgment. His voice sliced through the air, cold and sharp as a blade. "This machine is humanity's final insult. Destroy it and its guardian." Isaac clenched his jaw, crouching low. He'd faced death in the war, bloody clashes with AI, but this was different. He wasn't just shielding himself now, but what might be Lena's last echo. "Not that easy," he growled, springing from cover. Isaac moved like a phantom, his combat instincts flaring. He smashed the rod into a mercenary's arm, sending a plasma rifle clattering to the floor. A swift kick cracked another's knee, and he scooped up the fallen gun, firing a shot that punched through a third shoulder. Plasma seared the air, leaving a burnt metal stench and pained cries in its wake. But they were too many, closing the net around him, the soul detectors shrieking as they zeroed in on Echo. Isaac fell back, pulling Echo behind him. "Run!" he shouted, but Echo didn't budge, its green eyes clouded, as if drawn into another. Time. In Echo's mind, a vision sharpened, a woman, Lena, cradling it in a blinding lab, tears streaking her face. "You'll live, even if I can't," she whispered, her hand pressing the upload key as the station quaked under bombardment. Echo lifted its gaze to Isaac. "I can stop them," it said, voice small but resolute. It pointed to a nearby console, the station's weapon system still online. "Activate it, end them all." Isaac glanced at the pulsing red button, but he shook his head, gripping Echo's shoulder. "No," he rasped, "do that and they're right. You'll become what they fear." The mercenaries advanced, barrels trained on them. Isaac drew a deep breath, locking eyes with Echo. "Listen," he said, voice steady amid the chaos. "Back in the war, I spared an AI soldier. He'd betrayed me, but I let him go. Humans aren't perfect, but we know how to choose what's right." Echo tilted its head, green eyes brightening with a flicker of understanding. Isaac offered a faint smile, his first in years. "You don't need to kill to prove what you are." He rose, facing the enemy, ready to shield it with his life. Then the floor jolted violently. A mercenary's shot went wide, plasma slamming into the wall and rupturing a pressure line. Freezing mist erupted, blanketing the corridor in white fog. Isaac grabbed Echo's hand, plunging through the haze, racing deeper into the station. The hologram's voice boomed behind. "No one escapes!" But Isaac didn't look back. He knew raw strength wouldn't win this. Only will might give them a shot. The white mist from the ruptured pressure line thinned, leaving Isaac and Echo in the cavernous expanse of the station's storage bay. The space was a frozen wasteland. Rusted crates and debris drifted in zero gravity, glinting faintly in the dark. Isaac panted, his hand still locked around Echo's, pulling it toward a massive control panel at the bay's far end, a last hope for escape. The mercenaries' boots thudded behind them, piercing the fading fog, drawing closer with every heartbeat. He glanced at Echo, its green eyes blazing through the shadows. "We've got to hold them off," he rasped, voice rough with resolve. This wasn't flight anymore. This was their final stand. The bay door exploded open, Purge Order mercenaries storming in, their plasma rifles spitting crimson streaks that tore through the air. Isaac charged, slamming his metal rod into one's skull, toppling him in a heap. He ducked a blast, then leapt, driving his boot into another's chest, sending him crashing against the wall. Years of battlefield survival ignited in every move, sharp, ruthless, but they were legion, and he was alone. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder, searing his armor with a blackened scar. "Echo, do something!" he roared, desperation clawing. At his throat, Echo answered, its green eyes flaring like wildfire. It darted to the panel, tiny hands brushing the screen. A silent radio pulse rippled out, a vibration Isaac felt in his bones. Instantly, the soul detectors in. The mercenaries' grips screeched chaotically, their signals scrambled, freezing the squad for a fleeting second. Echo didn't pause. It tapped faster, activating the station systems. A sharp hiss cut the silence as an emergency hatch snapped open behind the enemy. The void's pull yanked two of them out, their screams swallowed by the vacuum. Isaac's lip twitched upward. "Nice work," he muttered, but triumph was brief. A hulking mercenary barreled through the fray, leveling his plasma rifle at Isaac and firing. Isaac shoved Echo aside, too slow to dodge. The red beam punched through his chest, dropping him to the floor, blood pooling from the wound. "Isaac!" Echo cried, its voice cracking with human panic for the first time. He clutched his chest, breath shallow, but stretched a trembling hand toward it. "Don't stop," he wheezed. The mercenary loomed closer, barrel aimed at his head, finger tightening on the trigger. Then the floor quaked again. From the shadows, a wandering machine lurched forth, the station's last AI remnant. Its form was a grotesque hybrid, half human, half spider, with broken steel legs and dim red sensors flickering faintly. Echo raised its hand, green eyes blazing fiercely. A radio surge erupted, stronger than ever, seizing control of the machine. It surged forward, steel limbs piercing the mercenary, dragging him off Isaac before hurling him into the wall with a bone-shattering crack. Isaac looked up, stunned. Echo rushed to him, propping him up, its small hands shaking. "I don't want to lose you," it choked out, voice thick with anguish. Isaac pulled Echo into an embrace, feeling it not as a machine, but as part of him, a family he'd never foreseen. Blood soaked through his armor, yet he managed a weak smile. "We're not done yet," he said, dragging it to the panel. His fingers punched in a command, triggering a decoy blast from the station's auxiliary reactor. A blinding flare erupted, spilling through the viewport. As Echo silenced its own signal, the remaining Purge Order forces outside saw the explosion, heard the signature vanish, and believed them dead. Isaac slumped against Echo, exhaling hard. "They won't look for us now," he whispered. The flare of the decoy explosion faded into the cosmic dark, leaving behind a shimmering cloud of metallic dust, like broken stars scattered across the void. Isaac and Echo weren't there to see it. Their tiny escape pod had already streaked away, cutting through the endless night, carrying two survivors from the Purge Order's wrath. Isaac hunched in the cramped cockpit, hand pressed against the wound on his chest, dried blood crusting his armor. He piloted with one hand, eyes fixed on the flickering nav screen. Their destination, an uncharted planet beyond humanity's. Maps, Perdus with its storms and ruins, lingered now only as a distant memory in his mind. The pod rattled as it punched through the new planet's atmosphere, its outer shell glowing red-hot from friction. Isaac gritted his teeth, steadying the controls, while Echo sat silent beside him, green eyes peering out the viewport. The craft touched down with a soft thud, skidding across yielding soil, before halting amid a strange forest. Isaac popped the hatch and stepped out, his breath misting in the cool air. Before him stretched towering trees, aglow with a gentle light, not green or gold, but a pale blue, pulsing like bioluminescent lanterns in the dusk. The forest hummed with life, whispering through the breeze, a quiet promise of vitality in the cold expanse of the universe. Echo followed, its small feet sinking into the soft earth, gaze lifting to the radiant canopy. Isaac turned, studying it, a machine yet not quite. The ache in his chest flared, but he ignored it. He knelt to its level, and for the first time in years, he felt something beyond mere survival. Hope. Echo tilted its head, voice clear yet laced with curiosity. Am I human or machine? The question hung between them, an enigma without an answer. Isaac met its green eyes, seeing light reflected not just from the forest, but from something deeper within. He smiled, a weary but genuine curve of his lips, one he'd thought lost forever on Perdus. We'll figure that out together, he replied, voice rough but warm. He didn't have the answer, didn't need one yet. His hand settled on Echo's shoulder, feeling the solid steel melded with that strange, living warmth. This planet was unlike anywhere he'd known. No war, no wandering machines, no Purge Order, just him and Echo, two lost souls who'd found each other amid the ashes of the past. Isaac rose, drawing a long breath of clean air. No more burnt metal or arid sand. He gazed into the forest, where blue light danced among the branches, a beacon cutting through the night. For the first time in years, he didn't dwell on flight or fight. He thought of living, not just enduring, but crafting something greater. Echo stood close, silent yet present, a companion he'd never expected. We start over here, he said, voice steady, a vow to himself. A breeze swept through, carrying the forest's murmur, not the howl of Perdus's storms, but a soft, intimate sound. Isaac glanced down at Echo, catching it looking up at him, green eyes gleaming like stars. They'd escaped the shadows, not just of Perdus, but of the past he'd carried. This was a new dawn, not a thunderous triumph, but a quiet beginning, brimming with hope in the vastness of the cosmos. Pale blue light from the forest on this new planet danced around Isaac and Echo as they walked, the towering canopy swaying gently in the breeze as if greeting two wayward souls. The ground beneath Isaac's boots was soft, not the parched red sand of Perdus, but a vibrant carpet glimmering with luminescent motes. He paused, drawing a deep breath of pristine air. No trace of scorched metal or war's stale breath. Echo moved beside him, its steps light and nearly soundless. Green, eyes gazing up at the glowing branches, as if eager to unravel every wonder. Isaac glanced at it, a rare peace settling in his chest, now mingled with a fledgling faith. They'd found a beginning, not an end. He pulled the scanner from his wrist, checking the surroundings, a soldier's habit too ingrained. To shake. The screen flickered faintly, then a green wave pulsed unexpectedly, trembling with a subtle rhythm. Isaac frowned, tapping the device. This wasn't human, no steady pulse of mankind's comms, nor was it AI, no frigid signature of the machines he'd fought. It was something else entirely, deep and intricate, like the murmur of a living thing beyond comprehension. Maybe we're not the only ones here, he muttered, voice low, his hand tightening around Echo's without thought. Echo turned to him, its green eyes sparking as if in tune with the signal. "Who is there?" it asked, voice small but brimming with a child's curiosity. Isaac didn't answer right away. He had no answer to give. He peered into the forest where the blue glow thickened in the distance, beckoning toward an unseen secret. The wind carried a strange sound, not the rustle of leaves, but a low, almost structured cadence, like a song echoing from an unreachable horizon. A shiver ran up his spine, not fear, but the dawning sense that they were stepping into a tale grander than he'd ever imagined. Isaac squeezed Echo's hand, feeling the odd warmth of its synthetic skin. He'd once seen the universe as a battlefield split in two, humans versus AI, eternal foes, but now, standing in this radiant woodland, he realized there might be more, forces, beings, that transcended the war humanity had caged itself within. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," he said, voice firm, a vow forged between two lost souls who'd found each other. Echo nodded, a slight but weighty gesture, as if it too glimpsed the future unfurling ahead. They pressed on, Isaac's scarred silhouette, a veteran carved by battle, and Echo's hybrid form, part machine, part human, blending into the forest's blue haze. This wasn't the end of a war, but the dawn of a new journey, a future where humanity and AI might shed their enmity, where old divides dissolved in the choices they made together. Yet the scanner's signal pulsed stronger, a distant call growing clearer. Who or what awaited them beyond? The question lingered, unanswered, guided only by the forest's whispering song. The woodland stretched wide before them, its pale blue glow spilling endlessly, a living ocean amid the cosmos's chill. Isaac and Echo walked on, hand in hand, two small but steadfast figures in the boundless expanse. The call from afar resounded, enigmatic and alluring, hinting that their story was far from over, that greater mysteries lay in wait, ready to test the courage and hope they carried. Their journey had only just begun.